What if the person closest to a king wasn't there to protect him, but to replace him? Buckingham Palace has seen its fair share of scandals over the centuries, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared anyone for this. Not the cameras, not the courtiers, not the royalists who still iron their Union Jack napkins for coronation watch parties. This one hit the monarchy like a precision-dropped meteor. It started quietly, it always does. Scandals rarely announce themselves with trumpets. They creep in sideways wearing silk gloves and pretending to be concerned. And behind those portrait-lined hallways, where the echoes of dead monarchs judge everyone equally, something irreversible was already in motion. King Charles III stood at the lectern, and for one wild second, everyone assumed this was just a health update, maybe another speech about duty and legacy. Instead, it was a detonation disguised as formality. The king, looking thinner than usual, not frail, just carved down by illness and stress, cleared his throat. And then he spoke the line that made living rooms across the UK choke on their morning tea. Effective immediately, Camilla is no longer queen consort. I swear even the palace clocks hesitated. Journalists blinked like malfunctioning robots. William's jaw locked, that never let them see you panic training, barely holding. Catherine's hand slid under the table until it found his, which sounds sweet, except her knuckles were white, like she was holding on to the last piece of stability in the building. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. It was like history itself had paused to take notes. But Charles wasn't done. Of course he wasn't. That would have been too simple, and royal drama never travels economy class. The king spoke carefully, each word like he was slicing open a centuries-old institution with surgical precision. Then came the truly nuclear part: falsified medical records, deliberate manipulation of his condition, intent to seize control of the monarchy while he battled cancer. And I know what you're thinking. That's insane. That's soap opera territory. That's my aunt watches this telenovela during lunch level plotting. But this wasn't scripted by Netflix. This was the king, the man who waited 70 decades for his crown, calling out the woman he spent decades defending. If you're still here, and honestly, how could you not be, tap that like button and hit subscribe. Trust me, royal watchers, scandal watchers, and anyone who enjoys drama served with bone china, we're just getting started. Because the real question lurking behind all this wasn't what happened, it was what pushed him that far. Kings don't casually detonate their marriages on live television, and Charles, he'd spent his entire adult life trying to prove that love and monarchy could coexist without the whole thing bursting into flames. Spoiler, it burst. To understand how everything unraveled, we rewind a week, just 7 days, to Sandringham. If you've never been, imagine the world's most intimidating country estate built specifically for keeping secrets and pheasants. Charles and Camilla's anniversary. He'd planned this sweet little gesture, a vintage brooch, chosen personally, velvet box and all. Very old man in love, very sentimental, very Charles. Walking through dim corridors with a lantern, which, side note, feels aggressively Victorian for a modern royal, but fine, he heard Camilla's voice through the door. And something about the tone made him freeze. Not warm, not affectionate, strategic. I don't want it to sound critical. I want it to sound more critical. Dr. Harland, the king's physician, the man literally tasked with keeping Charles alive. And Camilla was instructing him like she was editing headlines, not medical files. Indefinite rest, severe exhaustion, prolonged recovery. Translation: remove the king from power under the guise of health, create a vacuum, and during that vacuum, establish a regency council. Who leads a regency council? Exactly. Now picture Charles standing there, hearing this from the other side of the door, velvet box in his hand, anniversary gift inside. This isn't heartbreak, this is betrayal with admin formatting. And the next call made it worse, because why stop with one crime when you can do two before lunchtime? Camilla reached out to someone else, discussing committee adjustments and preventing obstruction. Obstruction from whom? William? The Privy Council? Democracy? Pick your fighter. That's when the box slipped from Charles's hand. didn't crash dramatically. It's a palace, things land softly, but it might as well have exploded. That was the moment a husband died and a monarch woke up. People assume Charles is meek or sentimental, but no one survives 50 years of tabloids without developing a spine of tempered steel. So instead of confronting her, he went full intelligence operation. He withdrew from public life, officially for health, unofficially for war. And here's where Catherine enters stage left. Kate isn't flashy like Meghan, and she doesn't radiate main character energy like Diana once did. Her power is subtle, forensic, terrifyingly competent. While sorting routine medical paperwork, because royals do bureaucratic stuff, which is both hilarious and satisfying, Catherine noticed irregular emails between Camilla and Dr. Harland, timestamped at ungodly hours. Key attachment, Plan B. When your royal stepmother has a file named Plan B, it's never about contraception. Catherine took that to William, who read it and reportedly aged 5 years and 30 seconds. 3 generations, Charles, William, and Kate, now working together like a mini MI6 cell to uncover a coup inside Buckingham Palace. And yes, coup is a big word, but what else do you call medically removing a monarch to install a shadow regency? Around this point, viewer engagement time. Drop a comment if you would have told Charles immediately or investigated quietly like they did. I'm genuinely curious because both choices are unhinged in different directions. Anyway, the evidence snowballed. Duplicate medical records, phone logs, email attachments, and then the smoking gun, an actual recording of Camilla directing Harland to amplify symptoms and exaggerate decline. Cold, clinical, zero remorse. If a Bond villain smoked 3 fewer cigars, it would sound like that. Charles listened to it alone, because of course he did. It broke something in him, but monarchs don't get to collapse, they strategize. Which is how we arrive at the private confrontation, the kind that ruins marriages, families, and constitutional arrangements in under 20 minutes. He asked for honesty. She denied everything. Worse, she acted wounded, gaslight level Olympic gold medal. She blamed jealous courtiers, which, to be fair, is normally a safe bet. Unfortunately for her, the king had receipts. So he chose abdication. Let that sink in. The man waited longer than most people stay alive to wear that crown, then surrendered it because integrity demanded it. Not for optics, not for PR, not for vibes. For William, for the institution, for the idea that you can't just falsify medical documents and sit on the throne like you didn't do a felony with extra steps. The speech triggered chaos. Streets, screens, headlines, TikTok edits, choose your battlefield. Half the world saw Charles as heroic, half thought William orchestrated it as a power grab. Royal Twitter turned into a gladiator arena. But the cruelty wasn't in the abdication, it was in what came after. Camilla stripped of titles, no exit ceremony, no farewell, no carriage, not even a statement. She left through a back gate in an unmarked vehicle heading to a countryside estate that might as well have been exile with better landscaping. Considering how far she'd climbed, that fall was biblical. Charles retreated elsewhere, quiet estate, recovery, reflection, and then writing, because royal men always write when they've been emotionally obliterated. Ask Edward VIII, ask Philip, ask literally any aristocrat with access to a fountain pen. His memoir, Private for Now, talks about love blinding and justice clarifying. It's devastating without being bitter, and you can tell the letter to Camilla, the one he never sent, sits at the center like a cracked gemstone. Now let's talk about the part international viewers screamed over, the California connection. Meghan Markle, DNA tests, financial transfers, forgeries, attempts to undermine George's legitimacy. This subplot alone could feed the tabloids for 18 months without repeating a headline. Kate hunted that too, and once she had evidence, she did what Camilla never expected, delivered it publicly. Scientific results, lab oversight, independent verification, 99.99%. Case closed. Meghan watched from Montecito, pale as the California sunlight mocked her through the windows. 2 conspiracies, same target, destabilize the monarchy. One internal, one external. Both failed because Catherine weaponized competence and William weaponized restraint. And finally, the coronation. William and Catherine standing together, not just as king and queen, but as a reset button. The crowd didn't just cheer, they exhaled. Relief is loud when it's collective. Charles watched from afar, proud, broken, at peace. And that brings us back to the final question, the one the entire country still argues over. Was Charles's choice justice or vengeance? Did he protect the crown or punish his wife? Love or duty? Heartbreak or necessity? Tell me where you land, genuinely. Drop it in the comments because I want to see how divided people are on this. Also, if you're still here, which means you love royal drama as much as I do, subscribe, hit like, and share this with the one friend who pretends not to care, but secretly watches every royal documentary on Netflix. Thanks for being here, really.